Have your meetings turned into ghost towns where like people are not showing up and it's super frustrating because it's hard to have input from other people because there's literally nobody else at the meeting. It's just the same group of dedicated volunteers and leaders who have stepped up and who are willing to put in the work? That can be so frustrating. So how do you go about changing that so that you get more voices into the mix, more hands to make the work easier and all of that goodness? Well, it starts with taking like a really hard look at your group. Is your group healthy? Or does it have the reputation for being cliquey or gossipy? Are the meetings like too long? If they are over an hour, they are too long. They're too long because nobody likes to sit in meetings, even if you're there with all of your friends. I really enjoy meetings most of the time. So I should take that back that it's not nobody. It might just be me, but literally nobody else loves sitting through meetings. So make note of that and try to keep them under an hour or less. I have a bunch of videos about how to make that happen. So go ahead and search this channel for those other resources. So if you're at a PTO with a younger age set, so like elementary level sort of, are you providing childcare? Like a lot of times people don't want to bring their kids to meetings, which understandable. Maybe they don't have somebody at home to watch them or don't want to pay for childcare, so they bring them. So what you can do is maybe get some high schoolers that need volunteer hours perhaps, or that are members of NHS or Key Club or something like that, who can watch your kiddos in the gym while the parents meet in the library, or have like invest in $30 of a little Lego kit and have that, bust that out and have them set up in a different part of the library. They'll be entertained. It'll be awesome. The next thing to consider if no one is showing up to your meetings is, when are you having meetings? Like, are you having them during the day? Before dinner. So are you having them at noon or 9 a.m. or even 5 p.m. or 3 p.m.? Like maybe parents are working. In most households, both parents are working nowadays. And so it's unrealistic for people to take off of work every month just to come to a PTO meeting. Sorry, they're not going to do that. And so I've heard from other groups and they say, well, we've tried having them at night and people still don't come to that anyway. So we might as well have it when we want to have it. It's like, well, but then you're always stuck doing that. And it's really not inclusive. So you need to get out of that mindset and more into being open and ready for people to come, because that may have been true once or twice, but I guarantee if you kept having it at night, like there's so many different factors because so many groups don't have a designated meeting night or even a meeting time, and it changes from month to month. That's super hard for parents to keep track of. Even if you blast it everywhere, they're not paying attention to you. Half the time PTO emails go into spam, just like school emails go into spam. So you might think it's everywhere. Parents are not getting it. Even if you post it on Facebook, guess what? Facebook shows less than 1% of posts organically. Like they want you to pay to have your post seen. So chances are people are not seeing it. So that's why you have to say it a gajillion times and in a gajillion ways. So I have a whole separate article about 21 different ways to publicize events. So I will link to that in the description below, so you can go check that out after you've watched this video. So the next thing that you should double check is, are you planning your meetings against something else? So are you planning your PTO meetings against the high school's PTO meetings, like at the same time or without enough time for parents to go to from one to the other? Like if they're back to back or overlapping or anything like that. Maybe there's another conflict. Maybe there's a Cub Scout meeting, and that if a lot of your families are involved in Cub Scouts or an activity like that, then maybe they can't go to both. And so they're having to make a choice and PTO is losing. So take that into consideration. Go ahead and look at the calendar and talk to other people, find out when other things are happening, because but just by switching the night, you can boost attendance just with that little tweak. The other consideration to make is, do you really need to have a meeting? Like, could it be an email? Sometimes that's more than enough to get the job done. You get responses and get what you need. So consider not always meeting. There are some times of the year where business is light or lighter that you don't need to have a meeting. In my PTOs, it typically has been December is usually a major month where we don't really always need to have a meeting. And so usually we will opt to not meet, or we will turn it into a social event. The other time is in May. So yes, we have installation of officers, but that's kind of a nice thing to have rather than an absolute necessity. So a lot of times that is more of a social gathering too. It just kind of depends on what's going on in the school. Yeah. And because the last couple of years have been kind of really funky with the pandemic. So things are a little shifty like that. But generally, those are the 2 months that the business is lighter, where you might not have to actually have to have a meeting, and can take advantage of that because people have the time set aside to where you can have a social event so that people can form relationships and friendships and not just being working. So those are just some things to consider when you're like just about at wit's end because people aren't showing up to meetings and you don't know what to do. Just look at some of those factors. And I also have, if you need even more help, I also would recommend you checking out the Parent Involvement Success Kit, and also more specifically when it comes to meetings, the Meeting Success Kit. There's a whole separate guide on how to get people to show up to meetings, what to do before, during, and after to make sure that they're coming back month after month. So go ahead and check out those tips. For the Parent Success Kit, you can certainly use the information to get people to come to meetings, but that one is geared more towards the more global involvement in the PTO generally. So also great to use, but slightly different. So go ahead and check out those resources. I will pop links in the description below. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Want even more guidance on how to be a stronger leader so you can run a better PTO or PTA? All these resources and more are waiting for you at PTOanswers.com.